It's time for the scripture reading now, which is from the Old Testament, Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. It's on page 1277 of the Bible in the pew. He has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. And a quote from Rumi, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it.
How did we do?
Oh, thank you. Good morning, beloved community. I am incredibly grateful and feel so fortunate to be part of this community of faith, this community of queer folk and straight folk, this community that is serious about removing barriers to love, serious about doing justice, loving kindness, walking humbly. This community that celebrates Pride Month all year long. The HRC, or Human Rights Campaign website, defines an ally as people who are not of the LGBTQ community themselves, but have done an enormous amount to advance the cause of equality. In the most general sense, an ally is a person of the dominant or majority group who works to end oppression. And there's a really long, beautiful list on the website of what allies strive to do. I'm only going to highlight a few. Allies strive to be open-minded listeners. Allies strive to make friends with people very unlike themselves. Allies strive to maintain their own opinions. They believe that all persons should be treated with dignity and respect. Allies commit themselves to personal growth in spite of the discomfort it might sometimes cause. So friends, I know you've heard something similar before, but I begin with an assumption here about God, that God is the very power of life-giving love in the multiverse. And that this energy that was created or has always been, this love keeps moving and changing, creating, reconciling, restoring, and healing. This love does not discriminate. It flows wherever it can, in every direction that it can, as long as there have been no barriers erected. And what does this life-giving love require of us? Another way of asking this question is, how can we best participate in this parade of love? How can we keep it moving, growing, evolving, inspiring, expanding? Our scripture for today, I think, lends us some really good food for thought. He has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. Micah is one of the books of the 12 minor prophets. Micah would have been a contemporary with Isaiah. And scholars place the dating for this book somewhere between 730 and 701 BCE. Scholar Kenneth Barker described this time period as a long period of material and economic prosperity. Unfortunately, it was also a time of political, social, moral, and religious corruption. We know of an era like that. Micah warned the people of Judah that if they didn't get back in alignment with God, back into a covenantal relationship with God and each other, that there would be consequences. There would be suffering. So most of the commoners would have greatly appreciated Micah's prophetic words and advice, but there would have also been those that did not respect it or appreciate it. When we seek justice, when we love kindness, when we walk humbly, friends, everybody benefits. So to do justice is to be fair. It's to treat everybody equally. It's to want everybody to succeed and have what they need. To love kindness is to be friendly and generous, loyal and considerate. And to walk humbly is to be modest, to free ourselves from arrogance, to accept there is always more to learn. Keep our hearts open to God's guidance, and to refuse to give in to any sense or form of superiority. It means to keep our judging minds in check. Again, that line from Rumi, our task is not to seek for love, but merely to find all of the barriers within ourselves we have created against it. Friends, I am going to get a little personal today, feeling very vulnerable, but also held in such a safe space. I feel so grateful that I was raised to be an ally for the queer community. My first exposure was as a child. My mom's brother, Rick, was married to a man named Bobby Lee, and they were just part of the family. Bobby Lee played the piano. He was a piano bar entertainer. And so family gatherings were so special with their presence. They would play music, and we'd sing songs, and we'd dance, and holidays were just so fun with them around. When I was in high school, my grandma pulled me aside, and she wanted to tell me the story when my Uncle Rick came out to her. She was pretty sheltered, and she didn't know of any same-gender couples. So she did what she always did. She pulled out her medical guide. There was no Google at the time, right? So she pulled out her medical guide, and she found what she could in there. She went to her doctor. She talked to him about it. She went to a local minister and talked to him about it. And they both said, "Betty, there have always been gay people in the world. It's very natural." And so, friends, my grandma sought what she needed to seek, to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly. In 1996, just before I left to go to seminary with my daughter Morgan, who was 4 at the time, my brother, Mark, who was 24 at the time, asked me to go out to Thai food. He knew I would not say no to that. And as soon as we sat down for dinner, my brother said, "Jen, I want to tell you that I'm gay." And I looked at him and I said, "I know." I said, "And I love you and nothing will change. I'm just so worried about your safety." I'm so grateful I was raised to be an ally for the queer community. So many LGBTQ folks are shunned and rejected by the people they love most. There's been so much progress, and it's so important to recognize that. But there are still barriers to the flow of love. I found this quote on Facebook, and it just is so true. I want to share it with you. "Pride is so important because there is someone right now that believes they're better off dead than being gay." My brother Mark and his husband Chuck have been married for 15 years now. I love them so much. I'm really proud of them, and I still worry about their safety. Even though they live and work in the Washington, D.C. area, they still get bullied often. I'm so grateful I was raised to be an ally for the queer community. When I started seminary in '96, friends, I was still a United Methodist and beginning the ordination track. I had never heard of the United Church of Christ. The very first couple I met during orientation week, Jamie and Amos, were a wonderful couple, really gung-ho, social justice-oriented friends connected to the UCC, and they started telling me things about the United Church of Christ that I just resonated with. I learned that it was the UCC that ordained the first person of color in the United States, Lemuel Haynes, in 1785. I learned the UCC ordained the first woman, Antoinette Brown, in 1853, and the first openly gay man, William Johnson, in 1972. So I'm learning these exciting things about what's going on in the UCC, and I was also learning some things that I wasn't real thrilled about in the UMC. The one example that I will share was in their Book of Polity. The Book of Polity claimed gay and lesbian people could be ordained, but they also had to take a vow of celibacy. So they were expected to have a different kind of relationship. And that was very troubling to me. It felt like a barrier to love. Long journey of 7 years, but I ultimately decided I'd rather be within the UCC, right, than to be supporting values that weren't my own. Aside, the United Methodist Church just voted a few months ago to change that language. Yay. So friends, I have participated in protests and counter-protests. I have been arrested around this topic. I have helped to facilitate conversations, especially the first church that I served was a very small rural church. And we had some really good, hard conversations about what the Bible does and does not say about homosexuality. That was the word at the time, right? So one of the other things that I did as an ally, I invited Mark, my brother, and his husband Chuck to come and to sing for us on Easter Sunday a few years in a row. Chuck played the piano, Mark sang Morning Has Broken. Beautiful. There were a few in the congregation that did not think it was so beautiful. And I just remember, just to give you a little idea, we're standing up at the communion table. One man came forward, and as I handed him the bread of life, he said, "You are the devil." These things happen. I attended, was anyone else at the 2005 General Synod? when we voted to affirm marriage equality for all. Yes! That was an exciting General Synod. And Ron and Charlie, of course you were there. If you didn't know, we had a group within the UCC at the time called the Biblical Witness Fellowship, and they protested all along, right? They were really opposed to this, a very homophobic part of our tradition, and they have since left. That vote also prompted an entire conference to discern leaving the denomination. So as a very good pastoral caregiver, our general minister and president at the time, John Thomas, traveled around the Maryland churches, probably churches nationwide, just to help us grieve that we were losing some of our membership due to this very courageous vote we had taken. And what really stands out for me is how he talked about the church as being, the church can come in two forms. It can come in the form of a big tent, or it can come in the form of a parade. And he went on to explain that the big tent is very traditional, upholds the status quo, and is a little stagnant in growing and changing with the needs of the time. And then he talked about the church of a parade. He said, the parade is on a journey to the promised land. It's invitational. It's all about transformation. It's all about inclusion. It's on the move. And as we move, some are going to join us. Some are going to join, and some are going to leave. And that's what happens, right? And to be courageous enough to let those who need to leave, leave. The parade of love does not stop. The parade of justice and love will never stop. I am so grateful I was raised to be an ally of the queer community. With so many others in our conference, remember just before our vote in our state for marriage equality, there was all kinds of good work going on, right? Protests, phone calls, door to door, going to Olympia, and then in 2012, it happened. Our state voted to support marriage equality for all. Another fantastic moment, right? Yay! That was such a happy, happy day. Okay, moving a notch deeper into a little more personal topic now. After 40 years of life as a straight woman and ally, I fell in love with a woman. That was Nina, and some of you know Nina and remember Nina. By the definition of ally, that means I can no longer be an ally. So while I am so grateful that I was born and raised to be an ally, I am proud now to be part of the queer community. And on behalf of the queer community, I just want to thank you all for creating such a safe space. I have never felt anything but entirely welcome here. So thank you. Thank you, friends, for the commitment that you have made to keep this love parade marching along. So thank you. Thank you. And thanks be to God. And now for our